Welcome everyone to the G-Lew show. After hours, this is Changing the Game with G-Lew and the beautiful Deandra Chanel. Tonight we have a very special guest. Mr. Alvin Frazier will be joining us in 1 minute. But before we do that, let me do this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Changing the Game. I am G-Lew. That is the beautiful Deandra Chanel. Good evening, Deandra. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
So, a couple of things actually. So we were supposed to have the legendary Elon on our show, but he fell ill on us.
Right.
So we have to reschedule him at a later date. Hopefully he's feeling better. So just sending prayers to him for his recovery.
Right.
But tonight we have someone who's just as great. This is a gentleman by the name of Alvin Frazier, and he is part of the legendary band, the Daz Band.
One of my favorites.
Right. He's an amazing actor. He's a great, but his heart and his love is with music. And he has worked with some greats. So once we interview him, we're going to talk to him a little bit more about that.
Right.
So I think that we shouldn't leave the people in suspense anymore, and let's bring in Mr. Alvin Frazier.
Mr. Alvin Frazier, y'all.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How you doing, Deandra? How you doing, G-Lew?
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So I have looked over your resume, and your resume is extensive in so many ways. So can you tell us a little bit about Alvin Frazier, who he is, and a little bit about your background?
In brief, I am a singer, songwriter, musician, producer, actor, director, clothing designer, to name a few. I originate from Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I was born and raised, still my current place of residence. I've been doing music in some form as early as 2 years old. And from that journey to now, I've been consistent with following my passions in music and in the creative arts.
That's amazing. Now, go ahead, please continue.
No, I'm just going to say I put out 3 albums. Love and Faith Volume 1. Wonderful Love and Faith Volume 2, and my latest project, River, are my 3 projects that are out. I am an actor, as you mentioned earlier, so I've been in a number of films, done a little television, done some theater. So I've been able to kind of maintain kind of a dual career for the last 12, 13 years. And for the past 3 years, I've been a member of the Daz Band.
Daz Band.
Let me get this straight. So what I have seen in research, you're telling me this isn't a 13-year span.
Yes.
So this feels like a 30-year career.
Yeah.
This resume that I've seen and I read about, so you've only been in music and acting 13 years.
No, longer than that. Just in terms of the 13 years in particular, since I put out as a recording artist, but I was doing music my whole life. And then I finally put an album out back in 2006. That was the first album. So that was like when I consider myself like officially in the industry when I put out my first album. But I was doing music in groups pretty much through elementary school up through now.
So your parents are also in music?
Yeah, my dad was a singer. When I was growing up, he had a 5-member group, and they were kind of like along the lines of like your Dramatics, your Temptations, your Spinners, your Whispers, groups like that, right? So I had the pleasure of seeing them rehearse at home in our living room. And, I'm the little kid kind of looking up between everybody's legs, trying to, be in kind of like in the center of what's going on, all that good harmony and stuff was going on. And, quite naturally, like all sons, you begin to kind of emulate your dad. And, they noticed that I could carry a tune, I could sing. So my mom and dad were very excited about that. My mom, she was a drummer when she was young. And it kind of just took off from there. They began to really, really, feed that desire for music for me by, buying me instruments when I was like, I think my first instrument was like 3. I got a toy guitar, and then I got my first Disney organ, and then it was kind of on from there at that point.
So I'm sure your parents are very proud of all the accomplishments that you've made so far.
Yeah, they passed on. They both passed on, but they did get a chance to see, like my dad, he passed when I was still a teenager, but he was definitely seeing me develop, and crazy proud because he was the one who taught me like harmony and how to blend and all that good stuff that I learned about vocal technique. I learned from my father. And then my mom, she passed maybe about 12 years ago. So she had a chance to see me put out albums and tour, and she was just beside herself. So, it was definitely a blessing to allow her to be able to see that, that God allowed her to see that, all the noise I was making in my room over the years actually turned into something very productive. So yeah, she did get to see that.
Our condolences on your loss, by the way.
Thank you.
So you are self-taught with 5 instruments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that was piano, keyboard was the first instrument, then guitar, then bass, then drums, and then percussion. And a little small known fact, I do play a little bit of trumpet too. It's been a long time, but I also used to play trumpet too.
So for any upcoming musicians who are actually trying to learn how to play instruments, what tips do you have for them?
Discipline. You got to be disciplined. I mean, I hear people say, well, I used to play an instrument when I was younger, or I've always wanted to learn how to play. And I always tell people, it's never too late. It's just a matter of, putting aside some time and then just having the discipline. And I think when you combine that with like your passion for music, if that's your thing, I think that'll give you the drive that you need that'll allow you to do it. That's the only way, other than just a God-given talent, of course, as well, that I was able to learn how to play all those instruments. We're talking about this is way before, technology and the beauty of the internet and YouTube. It was really just listening to records and picking up my instrument and just trying to play what I heard so I can get it to match, until I was able to see performances and videos down the line and kind of say, okay, then what I am doing is right, or what I am doing is wrong, so I can correct or see if I was on the right track. But it was just passion driven. And that's what I would recommend for any upcoming musician is, you got to be passionate about it, and you got to be someone who, when you reach a point of difficulty, you don't quit, because you're going to reach some points of difficulty in the learning process. That's with anything. But the thing is about that is you just got to stay consistent. You got to keep on, working on it. And consistency will eventually lead to, I won't say perfection. I'm a recovering perfectionist. It'll definitely help lead you to the path of excellence. That's what I go by now. Is I don't strive for perfection anymore. I realize it's kind of a pointless thought process I've come to. So I said, well, definitely thriving for excellence is my thing. And it will lead you to that if you're consistent and persistent after learning how to be a musician. Do your homework, do your research, and stay at it.
Hold up, Alvin. Did you say I'm a recovering perfectionist?
Yeah.
Wow, that's the first time I That's the first time I heard that. The homie said I am a recovering perfectionist.
Yes, wow. Sir.
I gotta get better. I gotta do better.
I was driven by that, man. I used to be like, it's gotta be this, it's gotta be that. And I realized
what's wrong with that, man. I gotta do better.
You know what? Hey, it was just how it is. I was that way for a long time, and then it got to a point where I said, man, this is kind of insane. For me, it was like there's no perfection this side of heaven. So I said, I'm a believer, right? So my thing was like, okay, I'm an imperfect person serving a perfect God, right? Pursuing a perfect God. So I'm like, with that being said, based on just like, okay, I'm not God. You know what I'm saying? I'm a son of God. I'm not God. So I said, beating myself over the head to be perfect. I'm like, no, I don't believe that's the way. I said, but I can strive for excellence. So I'm not, deviating from quality and working to be great at what I do, but I'm just not driving myself crazy trying to be perfect. And that really took a lot of stress off of me when I did that. When I stopped operating from that, standpoint, man, I mean, life got a lot less stressful, brother. I'll be honest with y'all, a lot less stressful when I decided to say, okay, I was addicted to being a perfectionist, you know, and I say that's why I say recovering.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, that's no longer my position. It's about excellence, though.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
I mean, but with that old mindset, I'm sure it opened a lot of doors for you as well.
As far as being a perfectionist?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. You know, it's like this. When it comes to doors being opening, I always look at it like this. You know, they always say, you know, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Right.
I believe the importance of like having a degree of preparedness. And I've always been a quality over quantity guy. So I'm very selective about the things that I do or things I take part in, because I'm like, I don't want a stack of things. And then there's a lot of stuff in there that I really don't care to show anybody, for anybody to hear. It wasn't worth just stacking my resume with just stuff. I wanted to be very selective, and so that my resume had things in it that had quality and things I would feel good about 10 years from now. Right. So I think work ethic was the thing that opened up most of the doors, Deandra, for me. Was just like just working hard to be good as I could be at what I was doing. So so maybe being a perfectionist probably helped, but I think just probably just my consistency and continue to keep on knocking on the door. And I'm a person that if someone will give me an opportunity, I'll create an opportunity.
That's amazing. It takes a lot. You don't find too many people out there nowadays that have that same that old school work ethic, and I see that a lot in you.
Thank you.
So I'm sure my co-host has some questions for you. Yes, G-Lew?
Man, I just want to first commend you. I'm just listening to you. You know what I mean? I respect, man, your whole thought process and your character. You know what I mean? You seem like a stand-up guy and a serious guy, man. You know what I mean? I can learn a lot. I'm just learning, listening to you, man, a lot. You know what I mean? I definitely see that you take your craft very serious, and just, I mean, your resume alone says that. You know, first I want to, like we did earlier, send our condolences. You know, to both parents, brother. I want to ask you, not to dig into that because I know it's probably touchy, but you said it's been.
No, it's cool. Yeah.
But how does one deal with? I mean, you don't seem that old. I don't know how old you are. You know, I'm old. Yeah. Man. I don't know how old you are, but how does one deal with that, losing both? Because I lost my father, you know, years ago as well. But
my condolences.
But my mother is here. But how does one deal with that at such a 13 years ago? You had to be younger. So how does one deal with both parents, man, at a young age?
It was when my father passed. I was 13. I'm just under 50 now. So I was 13 then. So we're talking about 35 plus years ago when he passed, which was a crucial time. You know, you 13, that's where we at that cusp of going into manhood a little bit.
Right.
And I was real close to my father, very, very close to my dad. When my father passed, that was very difficult because it was like, you know, he was like my hero. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, this guy's my standard. Not a perfect man, you know what I'm saying, but he was a good man, you know what I'm saying? And he taught me a lot in that short amount of time. But I remember like when he passed, like, like that was the first time in my life I felt like lost. Like, like what's gonna happen to me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't got my father. But fortunately for me, and I kind of went through some stages, you know, of trying to find myself, if you will, right? But thankfully for me, there was always kind of some kind of spiritual compass that was there. And that kind of kept me out of stuff. Like, even when I was trying to get into stuff, it kept me out of being in the thick of it, like I was headed because of that, right? And so, you know, I was also fortunate enough to be with people who saw things in me. Teachers saw something in me, so they put me in mentoring programs where it paired me up with professional Black men who college educated brothers with good jobs, so I can kind of see, you know, what that's like. And they kind of took me on like the big brother, little brother type situation.
Right.
And those things were all very helpful, man, to kind of almost like allow me to have some degree of surrogacy, you know, with my father being gone. So I've always had like good men in my life along the way that kind of showed me the way, told me the truth, you know, gave me some knowledge, gave me some which helped me gain some wisdom over the years. And then as far as my mom, when she passed, I was, I was grown then. It was difficult. Anytime you lose your parents, it's difficult. Especially when it seems like it's untimely. Right. My dad was 37, my mother was 62. They weren't very old when they passed away.
Right.
But something, man, I learned some years ago that somebody shared with me that stayed with me. And what they said was profound. And what they told me was never love anyone or anything so much that you can't see living your life without them.
Wow.
And that was powerful. Like never love. And this was and I remember it distinctly because this was someone, their mother was telling them that their mother had went through a health situation and they thought they was going to lose her, and she recovered. But they was like, oh my God, I don't know what I was going to do. I thought you was going to pass away and da, 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 da. And they said, stop that. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Let me tell you something. Don't ever love anything. Me, your dad, this, that. Don't love anything that much in life that you feel like you can't go on without it. And I said, wow. Because when you think about what a parent's biggest responsibility is, I came to a conclusion. It's preparing us for life after they're gone. It's not meant to hold our hand all our lives. Right. They start us off that way, right? They hold our hands. They stand behind us when we learn how to take our steps to walk and physically, and they do that throughout our lives while they're here. But the real goal, man, ultimately is to prepare you for life after they're gone. Every lesson that we learned, and when we got in trouble, when we didn't listen, all that different stuff, was to prepare us for that day, so that when they need to go into an eternal place of peace and rest, that we still good after they leave. I see so many people that when their parents pass away, they go off the Richter. Right. They never recover. I got guys, friends, female. They never recover once their parents pass. That's not how it was supposed to be. It was. We honor the legacy of them by how we live our lives after they're not here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when your parents, you're like, I want to see my dad, see me doing my best. Mom, I'm doing this. I got this going on. I got this job. I got this, all these good things with the school. But the real thing is how you living after they leave. Yeah. That's a reflection of what they taught you after they're not here. And that's what I went by, man. So I miss them. And every time there's a major milestone, I feel that little bittersweet feeling of the excitement of, yo, I've reached another plateau in my career and in my life. And then it's like, oh man, I wish I could hear from my mom or hear from my dad. They were very, my dad was a very outwardly affectionate guy. So he would just be excited and smiling and happy. And my mother was the same way. So I was fortunate to have two very outwardly emotionally active parents who was like, hey, they loved on me that way. Again, not perfect, but they loved on me well in that way. And then I don't have them here physically for that. So I feel it then in those moments, man. But even then I'm like, well, it's still an honor. Like, hey, Dad, we did it. Hey, Mom, we did it, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I operate, G.
Right. Man, that was really deep, man. To look at it that way, and which is true, you know what I mean? Which is very true. Very deep, and like someone said in the comment, great advice as well.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I'm definitely sure they're very proud of you, brother. Looking down, they see you in whatever light.
I hope so.
I'm sure proud because you know what I mean. You seem to be representing yourself very well. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Be a good brother, man. So salute to your parents for raising you.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, man, about like you said, you've been doing this about 13 years, but I'm sure this, like you said earlier, this has been going on your whole life. You've been prepared for it, just like we spoke about your parents preparing you. You've been preparing yourself.
Yeah,
for
man.
What you're doing, but so long. I'm sure you were back in the days groups and choirs and all this type of stuff, right? But
yeah.
How do you feel when you get, or how did you even go about getting your first break? Like, where was something that's really happening?
So the thing is, I always had a plan, and I'm a visionary, right? So as a kid, I would have these visions. Like even back as far as like 3-4 years old, I can remember visions of stuff, and then especially when I got like in early elementary school. And so, when they would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I want to be a singer, and I stayed the course, and I would have visions of like seeing myself like as an older person, like on stage or you know, or on TV or something like that, you know. And I'm like, man, at first I used to wonder if it was my dad, but it wasn't my father because we look alike and I'm named after him. But I realized it wasn't my father because he wasn't going to be around.
Right.
And I realized looking back that those were visions of myself because I was starting to accomplish those things as I was, you know, starting to come into my more formative years. And when I run into people I went to school in kindergarten, they said, you said you were going to do X, Y, Z when we were in kindergarten,
Right.
you know? So I just stayed the course. And then when I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm really, really going to do this, I started kind of mapping out a strategy of how I wanted to go about doing things. I knew that, you know, I've had a metamorphosis in this thing, man. Like coming from singing, and I was like in rap and hip hop for a number of years as an MC and a DJ. And I did that like wholeheartedly. You know, I was really good at that. And then it was like I hung the mic up and was like, nah, I'm gonna get back to doing singing and get back into my playing my instruments and stuff. And I started mapping out what I want to do. One of the best kind of insightful epiphanies that I had was, I knew I was multi-talented. I knew that I could do this, and that. But I kept hitting a brick wall. I'm like, well, wow, I know I got the talent to do X. I know that I'm good at it. One thing I've learned too, I've got a pretty good barometer of knowing, and my mother gave me that because she didn't lie to you. She wasn't like, oh, baby, that sounds good. If it didn't sound good, she told me. You know, and if it did sound good, she told me. You know what I mean? So she was honest with me. So it gave me a chance in my development to kind of really, really be able to gauge and judge what I was doing and how I was sounding.
Right.
So when I got to a point like, I know I'm good at this. I know I'm good at that. I know I can stand on my own in all these different positions, but the door of opportunity is this slim. So, you know, we all 10 of me are lined up as a united front, like, yo, we about to conquer the world. We about to do this. We like, yeah, let's get it. And then we ain't getting through the door. And it was like, you're not getting through the door because it's this wide. So you got to make a decision. You got to decide which is the best and strongest version of yourself. And then you lead in with that version of yourself. And once you get through the door, show them what you got with that. They're going to be open to everything else you got after that. So my thing was, I'll come in as a singer. I'll show them what I can do as an artist. And once I got my foot in the door, then I can introduce the actor, then the producer and the songwriter and all that, because now they're open. It's what's next, you know? So I said, okay, shoulder to shoulder ain't the way. We got to get single file, but lead off with your best version of yourself. And that'll open the door for everything else. And that's what I did, Deandra. I think that was standing in that position and saying, okay, lead in with the strongest and version of yourself first, and then it'll open the door for you to show, hey, but I got this too, and I'm also good at this and good at that. And that's kind of how I was able to position myself, G, as you said, for the break, you know, when I had my opportunity. Go ahead.
What did you like the most? Like, you have all these talents, instruments, singing, acting. What did you like the most? Or what did you think was going to get you through the most that you had or that you liked?
Being a rapper.
Oh, wow. I didn't even rap.
Yeah. Wow. Being a rapper. Yeah. Because here's the thing, man. So the real quick version. When I was always in groups, I always had groups. So this was around 89, maybe. And I'm with some friends of mine. You know, you just hanging out with your homeboys. Like, hey, we should form a group. And I'm like, yeah, we should form a singing group. They're like, no, man, I can't sing. I'm like, oh. So I was the only one who could sing. So they wanted to rap. So I was like, well, I really wasn't like, yeah, I don't know where I'm at with that. So I had the biggest record collection. I was always a music guy. So I'm like, I'll just do the beats then. So it was like, I was doing the beats and, you know, doing the pause and stop with the tape until I, you know, started getting some equipment, you know what I mean? I was good, man. I can extend a beat in a track, man, like nobody's business. And then I started, you know, getting some recording equipment. Then I started learning how to DJ, like how to mix, scratch, and transform and stuff like that, so that I could be, you know, proper in my position.
Right.
But I was always a writer. So then I began to kind of start writing rhymes, whatever. And okay, I had a knack for it and I got pretty good at it. So I was like really, really in love with hip hop, like heavy, 89 through 96. I was like committed to hip hop, and singing was like on the back burner. Like I was young. I'm like, Yeah, man, you know, singing is cool, man. That's kind of soft, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know,
the
you
singing
talk
wasn't just a thing. Like, yeah, I get it. If you're
you
coming
know
up
what I
and
mean? Yeah, so
rapping,
you like, yeah, man, you can sing. Like, that's soft, man. I ain't trying to do no singing right now. This is what I'm thinking
right.
about. I did have a singing group on the side, but I was more committed to my rap, right? And so I thought that was gonna be my way in. If you'd have asked me this question 30 years
Who,
ago,
who,
I'd have been like, oh
who
yeah,
was your
hip hop.
favorite group? Singing group? You like a New Edition dude, or who was you dig? Who was your group that you wanted to be like? You know how I was when you were young.
Yeah. Like in what era though? Because you know, you're talking about 80s and 90s. What era are you talking about?
Well, 80s, 90s, you came up either one.
So shoot. Let's say the 90s, because that was when I was like a teenager, kind of high school doing 112.
Right.
I was really into intro. I really liked
Okay.
the intro.
The intro.
I mean, I
Yeah.
dug all the groups, don't get me wrong, but Kenny Green's voice, you know, like we had a very similar voice, especially back then. And
Right.
that was my guy. I love the intro. Yeah.
I interviewed
Mhm.
you before. Shout out to Intro, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the homies. Yeah. Jeff and
Yep,
yeah, and Buddy. Yeah.
yep. Buddy was there. Yep.
Nice.
That's dope. So for you now, getting into breaking through, how was
Okay.
that breaking through
No,
those
no,
doors?
no. We have
Oh,
an important question.
go
What's
ahead,
that?
Deandra.
Although
Sorry.
you're the behind the scenes guy, did this behind the scenes man have a rap name?
Oh, what was the rap name? What was the rap name?
Who's asking these kind of questions? Let me see. So all right. The first one when I first started with the group, because I was a DJ, it was Wax Master A. So it was because of the Wax Master A was the first name.
Master A.
Yeah, and it was like I'm always a person. I'm good with words. It was like, okay, I didn't want to be DJ A or DJ Al and nothing like that. Like, no, what's you working with the Wax Master A, bam.
Right,
Then when I stopped DJing so much and became more of an MC that was still producing, then it was RMS, which was Rhythm Make a Spade, because I make the rhythm. So Rhythm Make a Spade was that name. And then we ended with Spade. So that was where I got off at Spade, the last one.
You had some cool names.
Yeah,
You
man.
can't tell a rap story without telling your name.
I knew someone's going to ask me that one of these days. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, I just got a couple more. I'm gonna turn it back over. But how was it when you I don't know what your first breakthrough was or started doing things, but how was that? Because once you get through, I'm sure there's more and more ladders and obstacles and things you had to go through and obstacles to climb. How was that getting in into the business or however you got into it and continuing on and not getting discouraged or not getting overwhelmed? I don't know.
It's all of those are relevant, you know what I'm saying, terms. Like for instance, like I was saying with my first two projects, they were like love and faith based. So at that time, man, when I dropped that first album, so I became born again when I was 21 in 95.
Okay.
In the 95, right? And at that time, I had kind of started, I was still writing R&B songs on the low, like demoing songs for other stuff, but I was starting to do more kind of like, I guess kind of you could say contemporary gospel tunes, whatnot.
Right.
And because that was just where my heart and focus was. And I got some ideas to do some songs that combined like the romance and the faith part. I'm like, yo, man, ain't nobody trying to hear no song. Ain't trying to having the church persecute me, trying to say, I'm like, I demoed the songs down. It was like two of them. And I put them away. Like, yeah, I don't think nobody ready for these. They were nice songs. I'm gonna get me wrong, but people just weren't used to hearing you talk about God and then talk about love,
right.
As far as like romantically speaking in the same song. So I was like, yo, I don't think I'm the guy that's gonna be the one to lead that revolution either. And so maybe 6 years go by. This is 99. 6 years go by, and I started to get, I guess, kind of the assignment to like, it's time to record your first album. And I'm like, all right, well, what is this album going to be about? It was the Love and Faith album. So when that album came out, it was well received on the secular side, so to speak, R&B, but like the church for the most part, had a difficult time with it because, again, they weren't used to you fusing those things together.
They're kind of confused. Let me ask you this, Alvin, not to cut off, just to cut in right quick. Have you ever been married, or were you married at this time?
I was not married.
Okay,
no.
So that's why the church getting a little confused, Alvin. Like, what's going on here now?
Well, here's the thing. I wasn't talking about I wasn't talking about being sexual. I was just talking about just like falling in love and just like romantic. Right. It was all romance. So it's like, you know, I knew that would be a push. You can't be talking about, you know what I'm saying, like making love and then you ain't married.
Right.
So it wasn't about making love. It was about being in love, you know what I'm saying? And meeting someone you believe that God has sent you or whatever the case may be. It was like kind of along those lines. So it was above board as far as I was concerned, but to them it was edgy.
Right.
Like I remember going to a record label and sitting in with the president of the label, and he thought the album was great, but for him, he was afraid to put it out because he thought it was edgy. I'm like, edgy. I've said nothing on here nothing's vulgar, nothing's out of pocket, right? It's
like you were going to more like more of those type labels.
Yeah, I went to a Christian label. So this is the funny part. My thing was I was trying to avoid being placed at that time into this R&B category. I was like, okay, no, I'm trying to do a Christian R&B or whatever. I was trying to create a genre. You really going uphill doing that, and so it was like people were saying, well, yeah, you know, it's got a strong R&B feel. And I remember when I got my first review on the album, and the guy who gave it a review, he gave me a B+. I thought that was cool. But I never forget this statement. He said the album Love and Faith by Alvin Frazier he said it comes off more as an R&B album with Christian themes. And I got real bent out of shape about that. So I remember calling my boy who was in radio, and I was like, hey man, I said, did you see what the review said? He said, yeah, he gave you a B+. I'm like, no man, but he said da. He's going on and on and on. He said, man, stop. He said, so who you trying to reach? I said, what you talking about, man? I'm trying to get my music out here. He telling me this, that. He said, you trying to reach people, right? I said, yeah. So he said, if they think it's a straight up R&B album, let them think that. They'll hear what they hear on it. The message will come through because it's not like you hiding it. Even though you're talking about love and romance, it's still coming through. He opened my eyes and kind of got me off the ledge because I realized, I said, man, that is an audience. Mm-hmm. You know, and I was running into people was like, yo, I hate gospel music, but I love your album. You know, like no disrespect to the Lord, they were saying, but it's like, I don't mess with that kind of music, but I love your album because the way that it was given to me, I was writing songs that put God and love in everyday situations that we all could relate to. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really making it churchy. It was just making it like life music,
right? That
tied in faith and that tied in love. So it was establishing my footing. And that with that first album was like very challenging, man, because it was constantly people telling me in the business that trying to tell me who I was.
Right.
Yo, you're this, you're that, or that's that. And I'm like, and I'm a person, I'm very laid back, but I'm not a pushover. So I'm like, no, this is what it is. This is the kind of album it is. This is the kind of music it is. And you're not going to tell me what kind of project it is. I know what it is because I wrote it. I produced it. You know what I'm saying? So this is where it is. And then here's the funny part. When I put this album out, they started coming around. It took about a year. And then people were like, man, it's a great album. Or, you know, hey, I listen to this album, you know, telling me on the low. The R&B people, they was loving it because it was still soulful and it was still giving them, I understood R&B. That's what I came up in. I knew that better than I knew gospel music. So I knew how to appeal that way in terms of the feel of it and musically. And then all I did is allow my heart speak, you know, like I've done in all my music. And my heart also being a man of love and a man of faith, it was easy to do. It wasn't a concoction or a formula. I was just going by what I was instructed to do. Next thing I know, other artists that's in the game started trying to do it and copy what I was doing. So I knew I was onto something. I knew I had opened the door because I had seen artists that wasn't adding love and romance into their gospel music at that time. They were starting to do it now because my name was showing up on the radar and people were checking it out. So by album 2, it was still considered an R&B album, but it was still on the same lines. At that point, it was no longer the debate like it was the first album, but the first album was very, very challenging to get people to understand where I was coming from at first.
Well, I mean, to give yourself credit, I guess, for you to take the criticism and stuff so harshly. I'm sure you knew, just like you, the person told you who you're trying to reach. Like when you wrote it and when you made it, you knew what you were doing, right? So you know it's gonna come with, especially from both sides. You know what I mean? More so the side, a little bit of hey, but eventually what you wanted to do and what you were trying to do, and eventually I guess that got through, right?
Yeah,
I mean, to worry so much, like you have to know too, you're in this industry, you're in. It's like we're on YouTube, and I tell Deandra or anyone, people are gonna say what they say. You know what I mean? Whatever we that's what it's there for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good or bad, right? So when you did this and when you did it, you knew. I'm sure you had to expect some of that or whatever people think. You know, it's gonna be a lot of different opinions, right?
Yeah. Anytime you put something out there, before that first album dropped, I remember thinking like, stopping before we sent everything off. I remember like, yo, I'm gonna have to give up some of myself to put this album out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I gotta market it with my face. Like now my face is out there and my voice.
Right.
You know, you gotta, not that I was moving crazy then, but I'm like, you gotta move differently now because you're gonna be in the public eye. You're gonna be on the radar where you weren't really before.
Right.
And that kind of gave me a pause, like, yo, and the fact, like you said, you putting yourself out there for praise or persecution when you put something out. They're gonna love it or gonna say it sucks, we hate it, you know, whatever the case may be. Right. And you got to be good with that. Now, once I kind of prayed on, I said, you know what, hey, it is what it is, man. I mean, I just think there's products I don't really care for, I don't like that other people love. It is what it is, you know what I'm saying? So you join the movement, put it out there.
But it's mostly always going to be more positive than negative. It's going to be that percent that negativity, especially the real negativity. The most, I'm sure people love it. You know, when I started listening to your music, bro, I instantly was like, wow, this dude is incredible. You kind of gave me like not to I don't know if that's insulting or not, but you kind of gave me like a Joe vibe.
Yeah. That's my guy.
Yeah, man. A little bit of Tank. I know Tank is a little edgier, but I don't know if you gave me the vibe. Man. You know?
Oh yeah. And that was a tricky thing too, because when I did the third album with River, that was my first R&B soul proper album. I'm like, okay, I was ready to explore like where my pedigree is, which is R&B soul. Right. I'm like, so I want to go ahead and explore it head on, and so that was like because the first two albums were R&B influenced, I think it made the transition over into a proper R&B soul album not as difficult because I was already musically and subject matter was already kind of touching on it on the first two albums, so it made it a smoother transition when I did this R&B soul album with the River album.
Oh, go ahead, Deandra.
So I want to touch a little bit more on your gospel.
Sure.
So as I'm listening to your story, my question would be, if you're not talking about the intimacy part of a love between a man and a woman, what would cause the controversy with gospel and love together?
Well,
as from the way that you wrote the song.
Yeah. Well, you know, Dan, here's the thing. So like we would always talk about in church, you never hear much about the Book of Solomon. If you know anything about the Book of Solomon in the Bible, it's a lot about love and that feeling of love. So it's a lot of churches and preachers stay away from that book in the Bible, but it's there for a reason. And, you know, these new Christians don't appear out of the air.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, and that was when I would get people who would come to me and tell me they enjoyed it, because say if they didn't listen to any music outside of gospel or spiritually related music, they appreciated mine because it did give them the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? And I think more progressive believers understood it. They got it. They knew about the Book of Solomon. They knew that, okay, love is, you know, we say God is love. Well, that also includes love, not just for your fellow man, but love from man to woman. You know what I'm saying? As well, with me being a man, talking about expressing my love and affection for a woman. So they got it. But I think some of the more, dare I say, more religious believers, if you will, they for them, it was more, I think, of a problem for the more religious sect of Christians. You know, I think those who are more on the spiritual side got it. They understood it. Say, yeah, you know what? Finally, somebody did something like this. We've been looking for something like this, hoping for something like this to show up. So I think it was more so from those lines, and that's why. Because I was saying the same thing like you. I'm like, there's nothing in these songs that's love offends you,
Hey,
especially your love for a woman offends you.
I bet the single ladies in the church was loving you though.
Oh, they was happy.
Come on, Alvin. Come on now. Let's talk about it. Just kidding, man. I'm just
can I? Am I the one? Can I be the one? Yeah.
Man.
The other thing is, as I was listening to you talk about the way you felt that people were perceiving your music, of the way it was written. Now that you've grown a lot as an artist, do you now appreciate that people can see your music from different perspectives as opposed to seeing it as them trying to tell you what kind of music you're writing?
Yeah, but that came from yes, you're right. I do appreciate that, but that came from, like I said earlier, about staying consistent and understanding the assignment. You know what I mean? I knew that concept for that album, that first one in particular, I didn't come up with that. You know, that was God given. You know, so when God gives it to you and it's God breathed, as they say, as far as what inspiration means, I was like, okay, if you're telling me this is the kind of project you want me to do, because I would have probably to be honest, I probably would have did just a straight contemporary gospel album and just rolled that way at that particular time of my career. God was like, that ain't what I want you to do. I need you to go this way. And I was like, okay. You know, I said, okay, well, if that's what you say, I trust you. And I just went and just relied on that. And so because I stayed the course, I understood the assignment. I didn't let what naysayers say sway me from what I was doing. Then the breakthrough happened, and then people began to just say, okay, they could just appreciate the music as opposed to scrutinizing it. It was like, well, let me listen to it, you know, and it helped to expand minds too. So, you know, you want your art, your work to sometimes if you're doing great art, they say it's going to be a little controversial from time to time. Nobody should like everything that you're doing all the time. Right. And then the other thing is it should open minds. It should inspire, you know, where people who I knew was like, I never even would have put the two together but the albums opened up something to me I hadn't thought about, or I never saw God in that light, even though I was talking about songs of just everyday situations that may have ministered to a brother. I had so many older ladies would come to me and say, my son took your CD and won't give it back. Now, this is a guy, son ain't been to church in years. He ain't been since he was a kid. He out there, he doing his thing in the streets, you know, trying to do whatever he needs to do to survive. But they like, my son took the CD and he won't give it back. So I was like, okay, cool. Then it's doing what I intended for it to do, is to be able to reach people. Because when I got saved, I was one of the kind of people, like, I didn't want to go to nobody's church. I was like, yo, I don't want to be a part of the foolishness. I felt all that. I was like, I'm good. I don't want to be a part of that. Right. But, you know, God had a different plan. And as I say, you know, he placed me under arrest, if you will. And I was one of the best decisions I ever made. But because of that, I came in knowing who my audience was going to be. Like, yo, I need to reach people who are like me, who's on the outside church. Like, I ain't really trying to mess with the church all like that. And my music reached those people. And I was like, okay, cool. Those are the brothers and the sisters I'm trying to reach. You on the outside. Like, yeah, I don't really know about that because I've seen this, I've experienced that, I've this, I've that. And I'm like, yo, I was just like you. So I know what it's like. But I also know, being that I'm not a religious cat, you know, that for me is real. You know what I mean? And my life was messed up in a lot of ways at different times, and God was faithful. And I'm like, if you did it for me and you say your life is really, really messed up, don't worry about it. It's all good. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You know, it's going all right.
So I wanted to talk to you. So we've talked about your hip hop and gospel background, but we haven't touched on your jazz background. Can we talk about that?
Sure. Jazz. Didn't grow up listening to jazz. Jazz is too complicated of a music for me. It was like, it's too sophisticated for my virgin ears growing up. We didn't listen to jazz in my household like that. Maybe when I got around 10 or 11, my mom had a friend who turned me on to like Miles Davis, his later stuff, and some other more new age jazz people. Then hip hop, the beauty about hip hop, I learned so much from being in that phase in my life, because it taught me how to become more well spoken, how to, learn how to properly enunciate words, because it was like, yo, I'm spending too much time writing these lyrics to not be heard. I'm like, I don't even know what I just said right there. So I had to start working on my diction, so I learned how to speak and be clearer. But then it opened me up to other genres. Like, when we're looking for records, we'd be crate digging. I still do that to this day because I love vinyl. Me and my partner would be digging in the crates at home or at some store, and we would come across all the jazz albums. And at the time, for us, it was just like needle skipping. You were trying to find something that we can run in the sampler and sample. Hey, let's fast, man, put that in the sampler, let's loop it, whatever. But as I'm doing that, you got to listen to the records a little bit. I'm like, man, that kind of nice. That sounds kind of cool. Before you know it, I started falling in love with jazz in high school. And when I formed my first instrumental group, was about 98. I was playing guitar in that group. I was kind of like, leaning and gleaning from the jazz music I had started listening to from my hip hop days. And from there, it just kind of took off, where I just fell in love with jazz till it became like my favorite genre of music, like traditional jazz, like straight ahead. Smooth jazz is cool. I enjoy that too. But like jazz, as they call it, straight ahead, that's my stuff right there. And I ended up forming a jazz trio called the Joshua Trio about 2003. And that was like my first time having a group that was like we were heavy on the jazz. Like, we weren't playing around, we was burning it up. And I recruited two guys who were a little younger than I am, but they were like really, really serious jazz guys. And I was into jazz too, but I had never been in a situation where I was playing with two cats who was really about that life. So I knew in order for me to get to the level of where I wanted to get to, I had to position myself with a team of guys who were better at it than I was at that time. And they definitely lit a fire under me in that group, because I was always a great arranger. I could always produce. I can always tell, okay, play this, play that. This is the sound we want, this is that. So they allowed me to orchestrate as the band's leader, but they were the ones who really, really helped me grow as a jazz musician. And then, sometimes you don't know what you know until you're in a situation where you got to use it. So like on the jazz side, all the stuff I've been listening to over the years was in my head, but I didn't know what chops I really, really had to, you're flying at 100 miles an hour, musically speaking, and you got to come with it. And you like, oh shit, okay, this is in there. Okay, I can do, okay, bet, and it was kind of like it took off from there. And that began my journey in jazz. And so I've been a jazz guitarist now for 20 years as well.
Oh, amazing.
Wow, that's incredible to go from all of that straight to jazz and fall in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one too, was always slow on jazz. I respect it and love it, but I mean, to fall in love with it, that's different, brother. You're a true musician.
Yeah, it's moody, man. Jazz music is real moody and colorful, but you'd be surprised if you decide to just kind of sit with some for a while.
Because you take, what did you say? Take on, what did you call it? A different jazz. What is it?
Straight ahead jazz.
What is that?
That's straight ahead. So, like, smooth jazz is like your Norman Brown, your maybe David Sanborn, maybe, what I'm saying, people like that. Boney James, people like that. But then when you get to more like straight ahead jazz, you're talking about your John Coltrane, you're talking about the early Miles Davis music. You're talking about, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So
more like original jazz music of like old school. Okay.
Old school jazz, but yeah, we call that straight ahead. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Any kind of jazz that's a tradition.
I was thinking when you said that was more newer style or something. That's why I asked. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. The newer jazz, like more like new age, they call it. Okay. Like, yeah, new age jazz. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But straight ahead is all your piano, bass, drums, and guitar or sax kind of jazz. All acoustic instruments.
Straight jazz. Straight jazz. I got you.
For sure.
I have a list that I'm gonna name off.
Okay.
And I truly am in awe of this list and how you affiliate to this list.
Okay.
So George Clinton, the Ohio Players, Switch, Dante Moore, Kenny Lattimore, Angie Stone, and the Jazz Band.
Yes.
And this list is a list of individuals, legendary individuals that you have worked with. As you hear this list being named off, how does that make you feel having that type of accomplishment of working with all these amazing, legendary people that we all know and love?
It's a blessing, you know. To be honest, a lot of times when you kind of got your head down like this, a lot of the time, you know, you're just working, grinding through, you know, and in this career, you kind of like, it's always what's next. You know, you finish up, you work toward to get ready for an album, a tour, or whatever it is, or movie or something. Then once that's done, it's like, okay, what's next? Then your head's down again, working on that. So sometimes you don't even really get a chance to realize, to look at what all you've done till it's time to account for it. And you're like, man, I've done that. I worked with them. I've done that. And you say, man, you know, you feel good about it. You know, you feel good about it. You feel blessed. You say, well, okay, I guess I haven't done too bad so far. You know, not too bad. Okay, head down again. What's next? You know, yeah. So it's kind of like that. It's like, I'm very thankful, very grateful. The list of people that I've had a chance to work with and share stages with is so long, like probably 3 times as long as that list is at this point. And I'm just grateful for it all. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful to be friends with people that I've grown up being fans of. You know, that right there kind of always gets me like, man, I know this person. Like, you know, they know me by name. I can call them. I can talk to them. You know what I mean? I've hung out with these people. And they help shape who I've become. You know, the Daz Band was a group, Cleveland, they're Cleveland royalty. So I grew up listening to them like my whole life. So to be a member of that group and to be friends with these guys, they're brothers of mine now. It's like, wow, that's crazy, because it's full circle, because they were a part of my early part of my journey as a kid.
Yeah.
And then we get here, and then now I'm with them, you know. So that's like, wow.
Let me ask this. Sorry, Deandra, I want to ask you this, being that you're from Ohio, right? And you work with the Dads, but I'm gonna ask you more about that later. After how could you not? You would think, like you said, jazz and all these other things, which I'm sure you did love funk, but how could you not be first, like, or were you like in love with the funk? Because you come from Ohio, that's the home of the funk, man. All the great funk bands are from Ohio, bro. So
don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, the funk is always with us. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up listening to all that stuff in the household. You know what I mean? My mom, you know, and my dad, they kept the music on rotation. That was like where I was getting all my education from, listening to the R&B and the funk albums, man. And, you know, that definitely set the foundation for everything that I'm doing. Because, you know, music is very relative, more than, you know, even though we think of it in terms of genre, but in reality, because music is a universal language, man, a lot of music overlaps more than we realize.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like the funk has found its way into jazz, and jazz has found its way into funk. If you listen to anything by, like, listen to the early Ohio players, even some of their later stuff, but like if you listen to their early Mercury stuff,
horns and you're right.
Yeah, you hear the jazz in there, especially their Westbound. You listen to any Ohio players records on the Westbound label, their sound changed. They went to Mercury when they did like Fire and Skin Tight, but I'm talking about the early ones.
Right.
You listen to any of those albums like around time that Funky Worm was on, right, you hear the jazz influence heavy,
right,
on those albums. So as I'm saying, the jazz is right there in the funk, and the funk is right there in the jazz, and so everything kind of correlates. So yeah, absolutely, G. The funk was always with us. You know what I mean? Always.
Okay. Sorry.
So I actually want to. No, you're good. I actually want to how you became a member of the jazz band.
Man, divine orchestration. That's I always use that term when I'm asked. Divine orchestration. I had this was, everybody was doing, a lot of bass videos on Instagram. And so my thing was, I wasn't interested, like, some people that are putting up 3 bass videos a day. I'm like, I don't got that kind of time. I'm not trying to do that. But I know a lot of people, I've always, as you see, reinvented myself quite a bit. So most people nowadays know me as a singer and a guitar player. if they've been fans of mine within the last 5, 6, 7 years. But leading up to that, I was heavy on bass. So I was like, man, I don't, just for the people may have forgot or don't know, let me do some bass videos. But I'm like, I'm not gonna do 3 a day. We're gonna do one every first Friday of the month, and we're gonna leave it at that. So I did like a little bit of a song, like in April, Steely Dan. I did another song in May, I think Lee Ritenour, and then I did in June, I did Daz Band. I did Gamble with My Love, and I just put like for each video, may have been about a minute for each one. I did the whole song, but I only put up a minute clip. My whole purpose of putting up that video, like the other ones, just like, yo, in case you haven't heard this song, I know y'all let it whip. It was like about 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000, 70, 80,000 Let It Whip videos of everybody going off on that. And I'm like, I'm a person, I'm like, oh, how do I stand out? That's always been my thing. It's like, I'm not a person like to go, if everybody's doing it, I'm not interested. I'm very big on standing on my own and kind of doing my own individual thing. So I said, well, how do you stand out from the static? You got to do something different. So I said, okay, well, then I'm going to do a ballad. I could go funk, but everybody's doing funk that's got a bass video. Go ballad. It's a beautiful bass line on some of these ballads. Gamble was one of them. I love the bass line. Shout out to the late, great, Michael Wiley, who was the original bass player for the Daz on those records. And I was like, I don't know if people really know Gamble like they know Let It Whip or these other songs. I'm like, but this is a great tune. So I put the clip up. Hey, check this out. Great song by Cleveland's own Daz Band. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yo, check it out. Play the song. I think I hashtagged the Daz Band, so they just try to say they'll know who it is. Maybe a few days later, I wake up to a notification that the Daz Band that mentioned me in the story. I said, I didn't know they were on Instagram. So I was like, oh, snap. Like, okay. Oh, man, that's cool. They shared it on the story on their profile. I was like, oh, that's what's up, man. The Daz Band saw my video. That's what's up. I was good with that. Like, oh man, respect, blessings to you, So then maybe 3 weeks later, I get contacted, with a message from them saying that they wanted to talk to me about an opportunity. I'm thinking like, must be a Let It Whip contest or something. I'm thinking like, you know what I mean? I'm like, it must be like a national Let It Whips. I said, okay, now I'm gonna have to get my thumbs warmed up because I do this Let It Whip video. This if I'm gonna be in this contest, I'm like I was kind of like not interested in the contest, but I said let me see what it is.
Right.
I reach out to him, and lo and behold, long story short, in that conversation, we're talking, and they checked me out, and they were interested in bringing me on to play bass for the group. And I'm like, what? I didn't believe it. I'm like, nah, man, this ain't what it is. I'm saying that in my head. It took me like maybe 3 conversations with them before it was like, yo, this is really about to be a thing where I'm becoming a member of the Daz Band,
Wow.
And playing bass. And I'm just like, all right, okay, well, I grew up on the music, so that was going to be a no-brainer. It was just, okay, just getting acclimated to how the show goes and stuff like that. And so I want to say maybe we had a few shows canceled because we was going through the COVID thing. And finally I came in September. I joined maybe at the end of June of 21, I'm sorry, end of June 21. And then my first show, I think, was September 5th, 2021 in California. And so I started playing bass. And then I didn't ever mention that I sang.
Right.
So my whole thing was like, I'm getting hired to play bass. I'm just going to come. To be honest with you, I didn't intend singing in a Daz Band at all. I'm just going to play bass. That's it. It's cool. I've backed and played in bands where I wasn't the front guy plenty of times. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to play bass and, be letting it whip and doing whatever else I got to do from the back. You know what I'm saying? So I was totally okay with it. They learned that I was a singer and a lead singer at that. And then so the transition began to happen after my first maybe 5 or 6 months with the group to bring me to the front line as one of the vocalists. And then before I knew it, I was passing the bass to somebody else and I was out front with the other singers. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible, man. Like, so many layers to your story, man. So many blessings upon blessings.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And it seems like you ain't even like I'm not to say I don't know you when it happened. I'm sure you're overwhelmed, excited, but it seems like you were ready for all this, bro. Like you knew all this was gonna happen.
Rehearsing all my life for it. That's why I tell people, like, man, you do this, you do this, you do that. I said, man, I've been rehearsing for this my whole life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Salute to you.
before I kick back over to my co-host, I wanted to talk about your acting a little bit too.
Okay.
So you were in the Miles Davis biopic, as
Yes.
well as so you worked alongside Don Cheadle, yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
you were also you worked on a movie called With This Ring with Jill Scott, Regina Hall, and Gabrielle Union,
Yes.
and Judas and the Black Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's an amazing resume in acting just in itself. What got you into acting?
Um, Watching a lot of TV and movies as a kid, you know. I lived like I love music, but I lived for TV. Um, so as I would watch television and watch the movies, I would always reenact what I saw, you know. And God bless my sister Mary. She's a few years younger than me. You know, she got pulled in everything. She, you know, we sang together, we acted together. she got pulled into everything. She was like my first partner, you know. And so we would memorize lines from movies and reenact them. You know what I mean? And so I was like, man, when I was a kid, I'm like, I'm gonna be an actor. I'm gonna be on TV. I'm gonna be in movies. You know, I'm saying all this stuff like I am about being a singer. So I want to say, fast forward high school. Um, I took an acting class in high school, and then maybe like a few years after the high school, I got asked about being in a production. And I did some productions while I was in high school as well, but I did a production. So I was good at it. You know, I really had a knack for acting. I decided to take a hiatus from it for a while because I said, well, if you're going to establish this recording career, when the first album came out, I said you got to be kind of focused on that. So I said again, like I was talking about leading with your version of yourself, and I said, this is going to be music right now. And I said, if the music career doesn't tank, I said, then I'll be able to introduce the acting side of what I do, because my fans who enjoy me as a singer and a musician will, you know, more likely be interested in seeing what else I have to offer, according to my original plan we talked about. So lo and behold, for me, that worked out that way. I was asked to be in a production about 8 years on a hiatus from acting. My first album was out. I was getting ready to release the second one. And I do the production. It goes really well. And then the word was out like, man, this guy's a really strong actor. Like he can really act. And so then the calls started to come, and opportunities to either audition or just getting offered roles begin to happen. The challenging thing was that when you're known as a singer and a musician, people want to keep you there. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, yeah. So it's like, well, you know, Alvin's an actor. Come on, man. So, you know, people who are actors straight on was, you know, side eyeing probably like, man, he needs to stay in his own lane. Just sing. Here, another singer guy trying to act, you know. And it was like, no, I'm actually an actor aside from that, you know. So the challenge I had with beginning to introduce that was proving that I'm an actor, a strong actor, aside from being a musician. You know, it was like every time I would get a role, the character would all of a sudden be able to sing or play an instrument when he didn't at first. Right. He's like, well, in the original script, okay, so he pushes the guy off the building, right? Then he goes on the elevator. I said, okay, well, now as he pushed the guy off the building, then he grabs an acoustic guitar and he sings a song before he goes out on the elevator. It's like, what? And I'm exaggerating. I'm like, what did the sing? When did he start becoming a singer and a guitar player in the movie? Well, you figure because you know you sing, you act. No,
right.
Let me play him. And this character can't sing, he can't play. That's who I am. He has no musical talent. That's me in this role. I don't want to be a guy that sings and play. I mean, I did some roles like that, but I didn't want to get locked in where it was like I'm always playing some guy that's musically inclined. You know, I'm like, I don't need it to carry one. You know, I'm like, you put me up against your best actor, I can handle myself toe to toe with that actor without playing the instrument or breaking off into song. So that was like the biggest challenge I had. But once I was able to kind of establish myself from there, then it began to kind of smooth out. So that's been really cool.
I see that you have experience with stage plays too.
Yes.
Which one do you think is more your niche? Do you like stage plays more or actual films more?
That's a hard one, Deandra. I'll tell you why. Stage play, I'll say why, because it's instant gratification, instant reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you do something, you're gonna hear something from the audience. You know what I mean? And if something goes wrong, and I'm really good at improv, I'm like, okay, I know how to make whatever's not working work into the scene at that point in time. But that's the beauty of being able to think on our feet when we're working. Not because sometimes you can be like a deer in headlights if it wasn't something that was meant to happen. You like this. It's like, no, work with it. If you trip, work it into whatever happened in that scene. It is what it is. So I like it for that. Movies appeal to me because I like the nuances of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm talking with actors who are like heavy theater actors, and I've had a chance to do some acting coaching and stuff as well. And I'll tell theater actors like, okay, it's more nuanced. Theater acting, you everything you do the person in the back of the room has to know what it is that you're doing. So they have to see what you're doing before they hear what you're doing. Right? Like I said, or see what you're saying before they hear what you're saying in the back of the room. So your actions are larger on stage. Whereas a camera, everything is nuanced. So it's a little movements there. So you don't have to be so exaggerated there. So I like switching between both mediums. That's a hard one. I enjoy the nuances acting of film, and I enjoy the bigger acting and instant gratification from the audience when you're doing theater. So that I'm sorry I couldn't give which I like more. I enjoy them both for those reasons.
That's great. So, one more thing before I kick it over. Let's start speaking my language here. The Alvin Frazier collection.
Okay.
Let's see about this. We're going to be here for another 20 minutes, G-Lew. Just sit back.
Okay.
Talk to me about this amazing clothing collection that you have.
So the Alvin Frazier collection started basically, one of the things I understood very early on in my career with music was like branding.
Yes.
I understood that very early. It's like, you gotta, once you get out there and you begin to build a fan base, then, you got to be thinking about branding as you go along the way too. And so, at the shows, we had the CDs and different things available as far as music is concerned. But it was like, man, my thought was like, eventually you want to expand your merchandise. And people were asking me when the first time, are you going to get any clothes and shirts made? I said, no, man, I'm not relevant enough for that. People they don't know me. You know what I'm saying? I was again, this is that barometer my mother taught me. Nobody don't know who you are yet. You're still building your audience. So no, album 1 is not the time for that. Album 2, I felt would be the right time. I said, album 1 does well enough to sustain me, then I'll be able to introduce this part for the second one. When the second one came, I already was working in graphic design. So it was like, okay, then started to create some designs for the shirts that you would want to have available so that people can take you home. Because I was like, okay, well, I need people to be able to take me home with them. And so I did like maybe 6 designs as far as like Alvin Frazier stuff. And then it was like, I was pretty much cool with that. And then I just heard that still little voice, that was like, why would you stop there? Because a clothing brand was kind of in my mind, but I was thinking like maybe another 5 years or so, we putting it off. And it was like, why wait then when you can begin it now? And I'm like, okay. I was obedient to the voice, and I sat down and I just began to start just designing all these different cool designs. And before you know it, we were like at 200 designs. And now in the next few years, working with some clothing designers to get into some suits and stuff, and some jeans and things like that. So just looking to really expand, because I'm a fashion guy. I like fashion. I say, well, I start with graphic stuff like this, but this is one of my designs, obviously. But it was more so.
Hold on, let us see that shirt. Let me see.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Alvin.
Mm-hmm. I love that writing in the back. That red.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to design things that I'm like, okay, this is not a just throwing stuff on t-shirts and saying, hey, buy them. I'm like, no, I'm about fashion. I wanted to make sure that all designs had something appealing about them that people would want to wear them. So that was my thing, was fashion passion. And so that kind of started that. So that's where the Alvin Frazier collection is. And it's doing pretty good. Has some people in the industry that's wearing some of the stuff some of the designs that I've done. And we're just keeping it going, keeping it expanding, working on some bigger things for this year, God willing. So, we'll keep, stay tuned for that and just keeping it going. Like I said, the next phase of it is to open up a space and then, start getting into some of the other type of stuff that you might see me wearing in my pictures and stuff like that. Those kind of the clothing designs and things like that is what we're going to get into next.
Do you mind if I show one of your other designs here?
Sure.
Okay. I am absolutely in love with this. I don't know if you can really see.
Which one is that one?
It's this is the tape.
Ah, yeah, the Lost in Love.
I love this.
Thank you. Yeah.
It can have so many meanings to it, especially with music.
Yes. You know how we were about those cassette tapes, old school, and recording your favorite jams off the radio at night. You know what I mean? So that was why when that single came out, I was like, man, I want some real nostalgic. I said the cassette tape, and for a limited time, we had a digital maxi single of Lost in Love. And that was cool with the cassette tape, and it had like 5 different versions of the song on it that we had out for a while. That was really cool, just to kind of bring the old maxi single back. That was fun too.
So I overheard you say that you had an idea of like maybe starting suits and jeans too.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's the aesthetic of the gentleman has lost itself. So it would be nice to bring that back.
Yes.
And in the future, because of what I do for a living, I would definitely be willing to work with you so I can put that on some of my artists too.
Okay. Sounds good. Absolutely.
So I thank you for waiting patiently, G-Lew.
You're good. Great questions. I want to ask you, go back to you joining it, because even after that, you did so much stuff after that. I'm like, how you do it all? Going back to you starting touring with the Daz band. I mean, how was that? I don't know what your background as far as shows and big shows, but I'm sure you were on some big shows and festivals, tours. Daz band. That working for you and getting so comfortable as you did to go from just being in the back playing bass, making sure you did the right thing, to being in the center singing. I mean, how was that whole process, and how was that experience?
In terms of with touring with the group and transitioning.
Well, just even first, just touring, getting that start to touring with the Daz band and all.
Oh man, it was awesome. I mean, I had done touring under my own name here and overseas already, so I had touring experience, but to tour with a legendary group as a part of that group, man, because it allowed me, like I said, to we were sharing the bill with so many more groups that I was like, oh man, and a lot of times when you're touring or doing dates, you're kind of in passing. One group is kind of passing the other one as we're going to get ready for the show. You don't get a chance to always hang out. Right. But during my time with the Daz, we've done shows where we've had a chance to kind of kick back and talk. And a lot of the older cats from, well, they are older than me, but I call them the old heads. They're very giving, and they share a lot with us. Right. They'll pull me and myself, another member of the group, Donnie Sykes. He and I are the youngest members of the group. We're both in our 40s, and he's been with the group 10 years. Right. And they pull us, they hang with us and just rap to us a lot. You know what I'm saying? Just giving us all kind of knowledge and wisdom and encouragement, man. So, that feels great. It's like, man, these guys we grew up listening to, are really good dudes, and they are all about pushing us, pushing us to be the best at what we can at what we're doing and everything, and just sharing so much information, and just hearing the stories, man. Just sitting back with the dads and hearing all their road stories from back in the day, you know what I mean, or backstories. And I'm a historian, so I came into the group knowing quite a bit about the group and quite a bit about people in the group. And it used to be we used to have these trivia battles. Like it would be like the end of Enter the Dragon. I'd be like Bruce Lee, and they all be around just who did this, who did that, who said that, who was this, and I would have an answer for them. This person, that person, that person, that person, taking them out. They realized very early that I'm the guy. I know some stuff. Like I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. So I've done my homework, and I've spent a lot of years reading up and learning the history about what it is that I'm a part of. So, man, it's been a wonderful experience, man, just being with these guys and being with a lot of the other groups and artists that I've had a chance to meet and befriend. It's amazing, man. So I'm learning a lot from them, coming in. They're teaching me a lot. So it's a beautiful thing. It's like going to school.
Right.
It's like going to school and having fun, because even though the guys are a little older than I am, it's still, they're very youthful, man, and very outgoing. So it's you don't even think about the age thing. You know what I mean? It's just like we just all a bunch of brothers just having a good time.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you travel, I'm sure, with the band, but you've been traveling a long time, and even you said solo overseas in different places.
Yes, sir.
For your favorite places, or where do you get excited to go or want to go, like during your traveling journey? You know what I mean? Being from Cleveland, Ohio, being to the world, man. What are some of your favorite places you like to visit or travel to?
Man, so Tokyo, Singapore is great. Seoul, Korea is great. London, I did the UK. I did a tour with myself in Hill Street Seoul this past summer. And I've been wanting to go to the UK for years, man. So getting over there and doing that, oh my gosh, man. That was exciting. And working on another tour this year to go back to the UK. That we were in the works on now, man. So I'm looking forward to getting back there. I loved London. It was awesome.
Beautiful. And what would you say, man? Like I said, you've done so much. You're doing so much, and still going. What has been so far? If you can maybe name one thing or two, but what has been thus far, to your knowledge, the greatest part of this long, beautiful journey you've been on so far? Like, if you can think of something, you know what I mean, that you think of really was a life-changing moment or monumental moment, or what throughout this journey you've been on and still going?
Seeing the power of music, man. Like I don't just do it because I'm good at it or I've been at it so long. I do it, man, because I recognize that there's like a divine purpose attached to it. For me, it's not just something that I'm good at it. I do know and believe it's part of my life's calling. And I've seen experiences, man, where like when I'm during my downtime, when I'm at home, I'm an artist in residence for a couple of hospital systems here in Cleveland.
Okay.
And so I get a chance to go in and play guitar in some of the hospitals, right? And seeing people, man, who are like terminally ill come down in wheelchairs or just barely able to stand up, and I'm just there doing my thing, man, playing guitar and stuff like that on the jazz side, playing some jams they know. And you see these people, man, stand up and dance and smile and twirl around and kind of just get into it. And their nurses come over to me and say, we've never seen him or her get up and dance since they've been in this hospital because they've been sick. Wow. When you see the power of music rejuvenate people, you know what I'm saying? That's powerful. I mean, it may not be the accolades of being in front of 20, 30,000 people like I am with the dads and stuff at times, but it's to me, it's not so much about the number of people in the audience. It's about how I'm affecting them, how my reach is touching them.
Right.
And when I play or when I sing, my thing is that I just want them to feel and hear God in some form in what I'm doing. And I've seen him operate through me in so many instances that I'm like, those are my greatest experiences, man. Is seeing how music has touched people and revitalized people right before my eyes.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful. I want to ask you one more thing. In that you, well, going even back from when you started, like you said, when you put out your first project, to now where you're at, multiple projects and you know, journeys, tours, not only with yourself but working with other people. Has there been anyone, like I'm sure you get a lot of accolades, people that enjoy you, love your music, but is anyone special that maybe said something to you or acknowledged you or did something that really made you proud? Say, yeah, man, I think that was it right there. The artist or anyone special in your life that touched you that way, that acknowledged you, and it really made you proud, like you know now you achieved, like you're there.
Oh, like I made it.
Well, even if it's personally, even it don't have to be, you know, just even if personally to you that meant something.
My sister, like I said, she's been there from the beginning, you know what I mean? And so she's seen all the phases, all the development, you know, sometimes with your family, you know, they love you and they're with you, but it's just like, that's just my brother, right. You know, that's just whatever. But when I heard my sister, you know, saying that, just how amazing she thought I was, you know, I thought that was like, okay, I feel like I'm, you know, not that I didn't think she thought that, but just hearing her say that, articulate that out loud, that, you know, like, my brother is incredible, my brother's amazing, you know, he's the truth. That really meant something to me.
Right.
Because she's been there the longest, seeing it, you know, aside from my parents, but since she's still here with us, she's seen it, you know, 40 plus years she's been witnessing it.
Right.
That's
a great answer, man, and that let me know you a real one, brother. Because you could have just been like, you know, I thought, you know, you're gonna say, well, man, Kirk Franklin or someone told me something. I'm happy, but you said my sister. You know what I mean? Salute, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Alvin Frazier, y'all. That's all I have for you. Go ahead, Deandra.
I actually want to thank you for a couple of things. First thing is being an inspiration when it comes to speaking on working through tragedy, being able to take the demise of both parents and just pushing forward, because a lot of us have that story. I would say, like, a lot of our guests that we've had, including myself and G-Lew, have lost family, like, very important. Like, I've lost my mother.
I'm sorry to hear that. My condolences.
Thank you. Right after, like, it was just work, because of the same mentality that you have. Very much like, not necessarily I want to make them proud, but I want them to be able to know that while they're gone, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's very inspiring. So I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think that's very noble of you to be able to go to the hospitals and play for people who are ill. Your thoughts on, I do have a family member who is special needs.
Okay.
And I did talk to another gentleman sometime last week who has a child who has autism. And we've both seen the commonality of when music is played, these individuals have a whole different, like with autism, obviously, and cerebral palsy, they're both mental diseases where they don't have the capacity to really do for themselves. But something about music playing changes them as people. Like, they suddenly have this, and we both notice the same thing, like they move their head side to side and stuff like that. So what do you think it is about music and the mind that triggers these type of reactions?
If I can give my honest answer, I mean, I don't know who watching or listening may be believers or not, and I'm just sharing this. This is from, truth as I know it. So it's not to impose this on anybody who ascribes to something different. But as far as I know, music comes from God, and even in the heavens at the beginning of it all, he wanted music around him 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? So he had like the angels that's what they did. They worshiped all day long, including Lucifer. He was the head angel before the fall. But that just further lets you know like how important music is. He created it there, but he knew the power of music and how it can affect a person's countenance in the spiritual realm. Music is so deep, and I know we don't got that kind of time, but like I tell people, as I said, music can heal or music can kill.
Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of people, because it's music, they don't realize it. They don't think it's not that deep. Music, it ain't that deep. It's just music, it's a beat. It's just this, it's just that. No, it's never that. Everything has that, that different spectrum. It's the light side and it's the dark side of it. The light side is, as we're talking about, is bringing life to someone who seemingly may have checked out or got some terminal health issues and revitalizes. But then there's that other kind of music that's dark, low vibrational music that has you thinking a certain way and kind of just vibrating at a lower frequency that puts the kind of thoughts and things into your head that make you do and think about other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing, you know what I mean? And it has an effect on our psyche. And I learned this, somebody told me this years ago, that music is the only thing that exists in our realm that we don't give permission to enter.
Yeah.
That's how you know a song you don't like. Like, I hate that song, but you know it.
Right.
Because it's entered in without you even giving the permission to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So imagine if something can get in there that you don't even like, that you ain't say, hey, I want to. And then when it's something that you do enjoy or that does appeal to you, I think it's more so, music is spiritual for me, so I think it's a spiritual thing. I think these people are touched by the spiritual.
That's kind of like, I never thought of it that way, but even though it's true, my dad worked in radio, but that's kind of what radio does, especially with these younger people, like how they program these songs, and even songs we don't even like, I hate, but like you said, them at some point, heard them sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah,
but
man.
But on a younger mind, they can program like how the stations do, the radio, and the program certain songs, what songs they play, and you hear them so much, and these younger kids take that in different.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. It's part of a preset plan, man. It ain't by accident.
Wow.
It ain't by accident. That's a whole nother episode. But yeah, it's a preset plan, man.
So let us talk about future projects that you have coming up.
Okay.
That you like. Is there any upcoming shows, any new projects, music?
Yeah, working on a new album. So we're looking to get that ready for the fall, and the goal is to correlate that with the UK tour for this year, to promote it when I get over there for that. So those are two things, and then it's a couple of movie scripts I'm looking at. So if everything works out with those, I'll have a film or two that'll be coming out either later in the year or early next year. So yeah, I'm definitely getting my hands back. I hadn't done anything film wise in a couple of years until my recent film, What Happens in the Dark, that I did, and the buzz has been real good about the character, and because when you gain new fans, they're learning new stuff about you. They didn't know I was an actor, so they're discovering that, and that's been getting some good buzz. So yeah, we're just looking at some more acting projects to get back to work on that side as well.
Well, congratulations on all that. And in the future, if there's ever any other project that you want to promote, or you just want to kind of come back and say what's up to us and give us an update on the career, you're more than welcome to come back always.
For sure. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Have you back? There's a lot of other stuff, like you just said, we could talk about, man. We could go with, a lot of stuff. Let me ask you this one more thing before we let you go. Speaking on you going to the UK and touring, do you find that you get, I don't want to say more love, not that you don't get it here. Do you you find sometimes that your music, because I know this happens in general, especially, over there, they appreciate, seems like, our stuff more, especially our music and older stuff that people try to throw away. But do you feel music is received better over there in the UK and different soils over there?
My first real audience wasn't Cleveland. It was Japan.
Okay.
When my first album came out.
Right.
And remember, here's the part that blew my mind, because remember I was saying this is a album, Love and Faith, and got, I mentioned God on it and Jesus on it, and then they were playing it in clubs in Japan. So yeah, because it was charting over there and everything. So I mean, go figure. I said, okay, well, the message is doing what it's doing, it's permeating. But that was my first audience. Then America and Cleveland came on board when they was like, oh, they love him in Japan. He's one of our own, kind of thing. You know how that goes. And so we're going to the UK, a lot of love over there. They were ready. They were ready. They like, when you coming back? We can't wait. They get even if some of the shows that we did, some people knew some of my songs and some they didn't. But I'm just like, it's all about presentation. If you give a strong presentation and you got some great songs, it's gonna prevail. Right. And over there, they're like, yeah, they're excited. So they definitely love us. They love us over there. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
No, thank y'all, man. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
So with all your amazing talents and all of your accomplishments, I want to be able to give our audience a way to find you. So where can we find you? Social media, website? Social
media. If you're on Instagram, follow me at I am Alvin Frazier. That's with the Z. I am Alvin Frazier. That's spelled with a Z in there. If you're on Facebook, same thing. I am Alvin Frazier with a Z in there. And for all things Alvin Frazier, everything, all things, almost everything Alvin Frazier, go to alvinfraziermusic.com. alvinfraziermusic.com is the website. That's, you can find all the dates, you can find the music, you can find the clothing, you can find out all the good news that's coming up. First and foremost, alvinfraziermusic.com.
I would have to say we've outdone ourselves with this one, G-Lew. I think this is probably our best interview yet.
I would have to agree with that. I would have to agree, man. This was incredible. Hey, Pearl, this was incredible right here. Learn so much. You guys got to witness greatness right here. The man said,
man,
recovering perfectionist. So that let you know, man. Alvin Frazier, it was definitely a pleasure. Salute to you being just
thank you.
A real man. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And so many accolades and so many things you bring, man, to this world, man. It's incredible, man. Brother, much respect and love to you, and continued success.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Don't seem like you ain't stopping no time soon with what you're trying to do. So continue success and growth, man.
Thank you.
Success, all that to you, brother.
Thank you.
Alvin Frazier.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank y'all. Oh yeah.
And also, DD has all of the links. I know you just mentioned them, but DD has all the links in the chat. Okay. So all everything is right there in the chat. So you guys make sure you check that out. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. We sure look forward to seeing what else you have in store. We're very happy and proud of you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yes. Much love, respect. We'll see you next time. Hey,
y'all. Sounds good.
Yes. That was the homie right there, Alvin Frazier, y'all. Incredible interview, man. Deandra Chanel made it happen. Oh, and people, I know some of you guys were expecting Alon tonight, because that's what it was supposed to be. So we rescheduled and got the homie Alvin on here because he was going to be on here on a later date, but he was, man, gracious enough to join us tonight. But Alon was under the weather, so he wasn't able to join us tonight. So I know you guys were expecting him, but don't trip. We'll get it together and reschedule it. But I just want to let you know that. Go ahead, Deandra.
So next week we have one of my buddies. Her name is Miha Brown, and she's an actress and a model. And she works with a lot of nonprofit organizations. Like, she does a lot of great community work, and she is in an amazing up and coming movie that they have coming out. I'm not sure when the date is yet, but she'll be on our show next week.
Oh, whoa. So look out for that. This show only gets better and better. You never know what to expect. Like, we have twists and turns, different people, and everyone I have to admit we have on this show is just like you never know what to expect, but it always winds up being a banger. And just like I don't like to say better than the last because I say this for every show, like it was better, but I don't mean like just outdid. It just means it's just on a different level every week, and it's just different and great.
Yeah.
So it's it's beautiful. What up, E-Vision? So shout out to Deandra for Chanel, man, for making a lot of these things happen, man. Deandra, incredible guest we've been having on here. It's just I love it. Everyone each week, and we learn and grow with these people. Just like the homie Corey who was on with us, I think a week ago. Hey, Corey was on my shout out to Corey. I don't know if he's out there. He joined us on Sunday night for my Oldies Rule Forever show and enjoyed and had a blast. And he showed a lot of love to me too. So shout out to Corey, man. Yeah, good dude right there.
We've had a few reschedules, and not once have we had to cancel a show. Thank God for that. There she is. That's our guest for next week, Miss Miha Brown. Hey, babe. So she'll be on next week, and she'll be talking about her career and a lot of the organizations that she works with.
That's what's up. We can't wait to have you next week. Can't wait. So everyone out there, as you just seen, our guest, make sure you join us next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, for me, G-Lew, and the beautiful Deandra Chanel. This is Changing the Game. That's what we do.
Until next week.
All right, y'all. Peace and love. We'll see you next. Oh, and also tune in Friday. I have a special guest on here. Miss West Coast will be joining me. She's going to be performing live at the Back in the Day Festival. So make sure you join us Friday night for our new interview on the G-Lew Show. Shout out to my producer, DD Hairston, and everyone in the chat. Much love. Have a great rest of your